25JUL22.com. If you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Ring the little bell icon. That way YouTube can pretend to notify you when we go live and drop new videos. If you're not new here, please share this with somebody you think needs to see it. Bear Brief, 25 July 22. I can't believe how quickly this month is flying by, but we've been busy. Oh my goodness. Camera guy's got his volume on his phone. Amateur moves.
Oh no.
While practical issues like cost of living and continuity of normalcy are still of foremost concern, issues of incompetence in power continue. Who'd have thought? And I just have to briefly pontificate on this. If you farm your well-being out to the lowest bidder, what do you think's gonna happen? You're probably gonna get subpar results. And just like we're seeing a breakdown in globalization back to regional ties and regional manufacturing and regional alliances, we're beginning to see the breakdown of federal authority back to localized authority. And within that, a big part of that is the lack of legitimacy that governments at all levels have currently. Because people are beginning to realize whether you want the government to take care of you or not, regardless of where you are on that spectrum, they're incapable of it. Now, they will run on promises to take better care of you. We're going to fix the schools and clean the streets and put up the homeless people and give you tax breaks, and we're going to do all these things. No, they're not. No, they're not. Because you shall know them by their fruits. They don't, regardless of what they say, they don't actually do it. And in many cases, they're incapable of doing it. And so people are being forced back to, whether they want to or not, they're being forced back into a state of personal responsibility for your own well-being, your own food production, your own security, your own education. All of that was your purview to begin with. We may have had a system for a number of decades that to a greater or lesser extent was able to provide those things for you. That's going away. The thin veneer of civility is cracking. It's going away, which means you must necessarily, whether you want to or not, regardless of where you are on the spectrum, you must begin the process of providing your own calories, production, not just consumption, but production, providing your own security, providing your own education and the education of your children. Continuity of community is on your shoulders because they don't care. And if they did care, even regardless of all the promises they've ever made about how much they do care, they are not capable under the current system and conditions that we have to fulfill those promises, says me. Inept policies continue to create problems for American citizens, as exemplified in several recent newsworthy events. While running for New York governor, Lee Zeldin was nearly stabbed by a man who jumped on stage. Afterward, he wrote, quote, "His words as he tried to stab me a few hours ago were, 'You're done.'" But several attendees, including at Esposito for New York, quickly jumped into action and tackled the guy. Law enforcement was on scene within minutes. Let me just reiterate here, and this is nothing against all of our brothers and sisters in the blue, you good for Constitution law enforcement officers. Minutes is a long time. If I cut your femoral artery, you have about 90 seconds before you pass out. And once you pass out, 100% chance that you're not rendering self-aid. So, minutes is a long time. Law enforcement was on scene within minutes. The attacker will likely be instantly released under New York's laws, end quote. Unfortunately, Zeldin was correct. The man was released just hours after the attack. How y'all feeling about living in big cities now? Been telling you for 5 years, come out of her, my people, lest you partake of her sins and receive of her plagues. One of those plagues being crazy, violent people. And I didn't coin that phrase. It comes out of the Bible, and it was popularized by Pastor Joe Fox of Viking Preparedness in Shofar Mountain. But it sticks, it works, it applies. I wonder how many people for years have been thinking about whether or not they should strategically relocate, because that's really what we're talking about here, Joel Skousen, strategic relocation, and haven't done it. And now the dollar is worth less, and the stakes are higher, and you're like, damn, probably should have done that thing years ago than right now when everybody else is trying to do it. There's a mass exodus right now from California, by the way. There has been for years, but it has significantly ramped up. On the other side of the country, in Los Angeles, Olympic volleyball player Kim Glass was viciously attacked by a homeless man wielding a metal pipe 2 weeks ago. So many thoughts, bro.
Well, that's legal out there.
First of all, just like when people are like, Bear, what are we going to do about martial law? Don't be where it is. You're not going to martial law anything out here. Hell, the county sheriffs are like, hey, homie, y'all solve y'all's problems. If you need some backup, hit us on the radio or give us a phone call. You can't martial law anything out here. It's too big. There's not enough people. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. Yeah. Yep. Viciously attacked with a metal pipe 2 weeks ago. She spoke out, quote, "There's been other victims around Los Angeles, and it keeps on happening. Everyone's paying attention to me because I'm an Olympian." Right, but the other victims haven't been vindicated. Every time someone's being let out on the street again and again, they're doing a disservice. Yep. And they're pretty much saying that these victims' traumas were in vain. Everything that they're doing right now, it's not working. There needs to be a change, end quote. Well, what about the fact that we reported 2 weeks ago that prisons are not able to get basic things like food to feed the prisoners, energy to run the prisons, or prison guards to police the prisons? Again, the system is breaking. So you got to have your own system, your own morals and ethics. I read this book that was written by God, and I know some of y'all don't like that, to which I would respectfully say, kiss my ass and find a different channel to watch. But there are rules for people that murder or attempt to murder other people. Society is not going to follow those rules. The society is not going to follow those rules. But surrounding yourself with good people who do, to a greater or lesser extent, follow God's rules is probably going to be a good thing for you. Reducing your population density is probably going to be a good thing for you. Because people are the greatest thing in life, but also the worst thing in life. And if you're surrounded by too many people, if you're outnumbered by the enemy, shoot, move, communicate, sustain. Do not become decisively engaged. Do not stay there and try to wage a war you cannot win. You have to maneuver, aka strategically relocate. And that for years and years, I've gotten people who've said, well, Bear, we got to stay here and take this country back and make it great again. Okay, if that's what you feel called to do it. But I'm not subjecting my wife and my children to people who are wielding metal rods, metal bars, metal pipes, and attempting to beat people to death with them. I'm not doing that. The juice is not worth the squeeze, homie. And if you think about all the reasons that people have stayed in the cities for the last few years, most of those reasons have been utterly destroyed with COVID. Oh, because of work? Go find some. Because of the schools, are they even open, or are you remote learning now? And what are they teaching your children while you're in there? Because of the city parks that you can't go to, because of the public transportation that doesn't have the fuel to run and doesn't have drivers and isn't being maintained, and that you can't get on in the first place unless you've got your passport. The cost-benefit analysis for high population density makes the least amount of sense now than it ever has. Good morning, Bird. It's good to see you. Have a lovely day. We're talking to the internet, okay? Okay, cool. Speaking of consequences from politics, Assembly Bill 5 in California, yet again, California, has finally gone into effect this month after a multi-year wait, reclassifying about 70,000 independent owner-operators as air quote employees of the companies that they work for, which is interesting because my guess is they were 1099, not W-2'd, which means they're not employees. They're not wage-earning employees, they're subcontractors, independent contractors, per the federal law. So an attorney that had half a brain and a set of balls could easily challenge that in court, per my mind. But I'm not barred in any state. And to the best of my knowledge, I'm not barred from any state either, so that's fun. The bill, which was intended to protect workers like Lyft and Uber drivers, is impacting truckers too, and they're not happy about it. Trucker protests are interfering with shipping operations at the Port of Oakland. A port spokesperson said, every day, quote, every day this protest continues, it harms the economy and the truckers themselves. It impacts the region and beyond, end quote. Republican Senator Brian Dahl, currently running for governor in California, said, quote, they've exempted all kinds of people from AB 5, but not truckers. We have a supply chain issue. We should let them go to work like everyone else. These are small business owners. Gavin Newsom is trying to force everybody to be employees and in unions even when they don't want to, end quote. Now, while I agree with the sentiment that this Mr. Brian Dahl has stated, I take issue with one word in that. We should let them go to work like everyone else? Sweetheart, you're not in charge of me. You're not in charge of anybody else. I don't require your permission to exist. I don't require your permission to feed my family or operate my business or do whatever it is that I do that I see fit to do as long as I'm not breaking any laws. And if you are creating laws that are against God's laws and are constitutionally unjust, they don't count. They don't matter. The people do not require the permission of their governance to feed themselves, protect themselves, educate themselves, and to simply exist. Government doesn't let you do anything. That's not the way this relationship is supposed to work. And for all my hoo-ah brothers out there that are like, we got to take this country back. How about a modicum of civil disobedience? How about instead of just rolling over and taking it every time the government decides to let you do something, you tell them to kiss your ass and do whatever you were going to do in the first place? How many times did we talk about this for 2 years during the global pandemic when nobody was allowed to go to work and I was live streaming straight from our offices every day? Every day at work. Well, you're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to tell me what I can and can't do. That's not your job. Of the people, by the people, for the people. And guess what? The government is made of other people. They are your elected representatives, not your masters. That is not how this works. And every time you don't push back when they try and make themselves your master, they'll take another inch and another inch and another inch until you have no room left to maneuver anymore. So respectfully, Mr. Brian Dahl, you don't get to let anybody do anything. Not how this works. What else is currently impacting the supply chain? Cyber attacks have almost doubled to around 40 million for one of the world's busiest ports, the Port of Los Angeles. The attacks appear to be coming from Russia and parts of Europe. Russia has claimed that an airstrike, shifting gears here, now cyber attacks, right? 5th generation warfare, a game of narratives, and a slew of cyber attacks. 40 million cyber attacks on the Port of Los Angeles coming from Russia and European nations. Part of Russia's 5th generation warfare strategy is to embolden unofficial, off the books hacking groups to attack Russia-approved targets. Why would Russia attack our ports? Because war is a game of resources at its most basic level. It's the allocation of certain resources against the defense of or acquisition of other certain resources. Additionally, Russia is trying to come up on the world stage. They're trying to maintain their own existence. But also, while they're doing that, if they can garner any more power on a strategic level around the world, they're going to. And if they can tie up the United States with asymmetric warfare by doing things like attacking our ports and our logistics, that reduces our ability to be effective on the battlefield. It's kind of like, oh, these guys want to meet and fight in this field. We're going to have an attack over here, the regular army versus the regular army. Cool. While those guys are assembling in that field, we'll send the guerrillas over here to torch their villages. How effective are they going to be on the battlefield when they know their houses have just been burnt to the ground and all their women and children have been taken captive? Asymmetric warfare. Same thing that Russia's doing here. Now, Russia has also claimed that an airstrike on the civilian port of Odessa in Ukraine only hit military targets, a military boat and weapons from the United States specifically. This is going to get worse, this Ukrainian issue here. And we've known this. The more weapons and equipment that the United States sends to Ukraine, and I'm not saying I'm for or against that, I'm just simply stating, the more weapons and equipment we send to Ukraine, the more likely Russia is to attack those things. Russia has already stated any material support that the United States provides to Ukraine will be considered war material and they will attack it. At what point, driving one of those trucks filled with HIMARS missiles to reload, or whatever you may have, at what point when a NATO driver is in there, do we now say Russia has killed one Swede, one Frenchman, and 2 Americans in an attack on a supply vehicle to provide aid to Ukraine? Does that become the black swan event, the onus for our direct involvement in Ukraine? It's very possible. I'd also say it's highly probable. And then we have a direct war in Ukraine, not a proxy war, an actual hot war in Ukraine between NATO, which is essentially the United States of America and a few of our friends, and Russia in Ukraine. And the key issue with that is we've seen thus far, based upon Russia's performance in Ukraine, that a conventional ground war, guns and tanks and bombs and planes, a ground war between NATO and Russia, NATO is likely to destroy Russia. Well, what's so bad about that? Well, if Russia knows that, and they've already released publicly in a statement a couple of weeks ago, hey, we've got the coordinates for your White House and for your Pentagon and for the Port of Los Angeles and for Dallas, Texas, and for all these other places, the Parliament in the UK and so forth and so we've got them. That was a not so subtle hint that, hey, we can put warheads on foreheads if we need to. And if Russia believes they are in an existential fight, existential meaning for their existence, they will cease to exist if they lose. Many of the top analysts believe, knowing that they will lose a ground war against NATO, they will very quickly go to nuclear weapons. That's a bad thing. That's why, even though it doesn't seem to make much sense, we are pouring in support, we being the United States and NATO, pouring in support to the Ukrainians in the hopes that the Ukrainians can bleed the Russians dry to the point where they lose a critical mass of casualties till they reconsider their course of action. The problem with that is, by moderate estimates, the Ukrainians are going to have to inflict 12 times more casualties than they have thus far in the conflict by the end of the year to bleed Russia dry. That's probably not likely at this point. So, what does that mean for you? Like, why does that matter? Global conflict is kind of a thing, right? It's going to exacerbate supply chains on material, on goods, on energy. liquid and electronic energy, right? It's going to lead to civil unrest. We have very weak leadership right now at the federal level in the United States of America, and questionable leadership in many states at the state level in the United States of America. The U.S. military is becoming more woke by the day. We've turned a fit and functional fighting force into ground zero for social experimentation with our military, to the point that lots of people, men and women alike, who have served for years and years and years, but aren't at their retirement years, have decided, screw this, I'm out, I'm leaving. A lot like the mass exodus from law enforcement that we've seen in the last couple of years as well. Juice isn't worth the squeeze, I'm out. Got to maneuver, got to leave. And then we're left with the LMNOP crowd fighting our wars abroad. How well is that going to go? I would say probably not so well. If you remove the experienced cadre and the professional warfighters from the equation, and then you send in the woke crowd to go fight wars, probably not going to go so well for us. Let's see. So Russia attacked the U.S. military boat and weapons from the U.S. specifically. It is very likely that this attack is expected to undermine the credibility of the crucial grain export deal that was just signed on Friday. We talked about that recently as well. Additionally, the chief executive of Ukraine's largest steel firm, Metinvest, has said that Russia has looted about $600 million of steel from plants and ports, thousands of tons already paid for by Europe and the United Kingdom. And if you're on Patreon, you have the relevant links to this discussion. If you're not, you don't. Patreon's $5 a month. There's a link in the description of every video. Oh, hi.
Hi.
You want to say hi to the people?
Hi, I'm the weasel.
Hi, Weasel. Hey, go get with Bub, okay?
He's still asleep.
Well, go wake him up. Maybe not even so nicely. It's 8 a.m. Just knife hand and be like, hey, Dad said, wake up. Good deal? All right. Thanks, hun. There's a link to Patreon in every video and every live stream. It's $5 a month. It's the best $5 you can spend on the internet. That's like 2 energy drinks, 3 9mm hollow points, a can of Skull, 1 caramel macchiato, you know, a third of a bottle of decent wine, 1 ounce of good wine. You'll be all right. It's $5 a month. And so please come join us over there. Just this morning on Patreon, we were talking about sheep on the homestead. And so the real information is over there. The real in-depth stuff is over there. And there's over 2,500 exclusive videos and live streams there on Patreon, because we can talk about things there that we can't talk about here. And it's also important to point out that Patreon functions in large part like a preparedness consultancy. We just yesterday put up the Give Me Your Questions post. We do 1 per month. You ask all your questions there, and then I pick out the best ones, and then I answer them on camera in a 10 to 20 minute video directly to you for the benefit of the patrons on Patreon, as well as community discussion in the comments down below, so that we can all get better at this thing that we're doing called preparedness. So it is not an I love me, you should love me too page. There's a lot of value, an immense amount of value at Patreon. Now, if you can't support us on Patreon, I understand. You can help us by giving this video a thumbs up, by subscribing if you're not already subscribed, and if you are, by sharing this with people you think need to see it. So, and if you're one of those people that jumps off when it's time to talk about how to support the show, everybody say it with me. Beat feet, skedaddle, get out of here. Have a blessed day. Shalom. Peace, homie. For those of you who understand the value of what we do here and have stuck around, we appreciate you. In stock at refugemedical.com, there are a handful of multicam black SOB kits left, and some reds as well. These are the SOB kits. Am I in frame, homie?
Oh, yes.
Okay, cool.
Perfectly centered.
Perfectly centered. I can't tell. This is the small of the back kit. This is a purpose-built trauma medicine kit to run on your war belt, your plate carrier, your chest rig, or your headrest, or wherever else you need the ability to keep the blood in your body and the air in your lungs. They are MOLLE compatible, PALS webbing compatible on the back. The way our kits work So again, a handful of multicam black left. And these are like incredibly rare. So there won't be more of these next week, the multicam black. The red. This is the first run of red we've ever done. We also have a few hunter orange left in stock. So if you need a high-vis kit for your skid steer, your excavator, your work van, your pickup truck, your whatever, your assembly plant, your manufacturing business, there's some high-vis orange left as well. The way these work, you've got a soft T tourniquet, Committee on TCCC recommended windlass tourniquet, not some cheap Chinesium bull crap, but a real windlass tourniquet on the bottom right here. And then in the top of the pouch, if you need this thing, you pull it open, grab the red handle, and pull the inner out of the outer, okay? So now I'm holding in my hand what I need to deal with life-threatening injuries. Not trying to chase it down on my kit or pull this thing out of that thing or remove this insert that's bungee corded to me or rip the rip away pouch and pull the buckle. No, we've streamlined that whole process, okay? So the inner pulls out of the outer. The outer provides the durability and portability. The inner provides the capability. You open this up. Inside of here, you got everything you need and nothing you don't to deal with massive bleeding, airway, respiratory circulation. So I've got a Sharpie here. You can add a decompression needle at checkout if you like. I've got a Sharpie. I've got, let's see here, combat gauze. This stuff is becoming impossible to get. This is Quick Clot, genuine Quick Clot combat gauze right here for wound packing. Also for wound packing, I've got North American Rescue compressed gauze. And also, this is North American Rescue stuff, tactical medical solutions stuff, not Chinesium bull crap. North American Rescue gloves. North American Rescue 4-inch mini trauma bandage. You can see on the back here how that works. This is basically a flat Israeli dressing for those that don't know. A nasopharyngeal airway with the Surgilube on the back, aka the nose noodle or nose trumpet. A pair of high-fin compact chest seals, not one, but two vented chest seals right here. And if you come to class, you'll know how to take this wrapper and make even more chest seals with the fold flat duct tape that is also in here, because duct tape sticks to everything, including blood, sweat, and tears. And some BZK antiseptic towelettes. This is predominantly for the use of a decompression needle if you need it. So that's what's in the SOB kit, small to back kit. And it's a phenomenal kit, made in America, guaranteed forever. 50 lives saved to date that we know of. 50, half 100. We are super proud of that. We're super thankful that the Father has put us in a position to be able to help people save people's lives. We take it seriously. There's 20 families that eat off of refugemedical.com. And we've grown this little business in the last 2.5 years from part-time in my barn right there to full-time at a couple different facilities with 20 families and 3 sewing subcontractors, all here in the United States of America. If you break this kit, I will replace it at no cost to you. If you use this kit to save a life, I will replace all the contents you used at no cost to you. And I have a pretty cool testimony from yesterday that somebody sent in. It says this: not certain how to start with this message, but I would just like to say thank you. Yesterday, 23 July 22, I was driving home around midnight. I was going across the San Francisco to Oakland Bay Bridge and came across a terrible car crash that just happened inside the tunnel. It was a single car that appeared to have slammed into the tunnel wall and spun. All 4 occupants inside were ejected from the car, and the car was on fire. There were no first responders on scene yet, except for some highway workers who thankfully were blocking off traffic. So I pulled over to help. In addition to me pulled over, a veteran also pulled over to assist. The veteran had one of your IFACs. Brother, if that's you and you're watching, please send us an after-action report. Please, we need to hear from you. So if you're watching right now, bravo Zulu, bro, good job, tremendous. But also please write in admin@refugemedical.com. The veteran had one of your IFACs, individual first aid kits. I don't personally have one of your med kits. I have a homemade kit that I put together that fits my budget. Perk your ears up. But between his kit and my kit, we were able to stabilize the worst injuries. What really stood out in my mind is how underprepared my kit was and how your kits had everything on hand. Without your kit on the scene, I don't think things would have turned out the way that they did. So thank you for your kits. I believe you all helped save a life yesterday. And before we count it as a life saved, we're researching this right now. So we're 50 with an asterisk right now because I need more details on this crash in California. But it illustrates the point. You can absolutely build your own kit. But do you know what's supposed to go in it? Are you trained in trauma medicine? Do you have the reps and sets? Do you understand how the stuff inside of there works? Do you know how to use it? Do you understand the philosophy behind the March Pause algorithm and what you're supposed to do with it? Have you built a purpose-built first aid kit for trauma medicine, or is it a boo-boo kit that you're hoping is going to save somebody's life when they have life-threatening injuries? These are not boo-boo kits. We sell boo-boo kits for when Sally scrapes her knee on her bicycle in the driveway. We sell those too. That's not this. This is for life-saving trauma medicine. That's what we make, and there's no Chinese bullshit in here. This is not a price point item. I'm not looking for the highest markup. We only include the stuff that is gonna work. I don't have Bear branded bandages like some other people out there, cheap Chinese crap. This is top-notch stuff from the best suppliers on the face of the earth. RefugeMedical.com. Your promo code is BearNation for free shipping on everything in the store. Bearfax are also in stock. The flagship of our line, the Bearfac 3.0 is in stock. The buckets are in stock. Wound care bucket, birthing bucket, postpartum bucket. Crash and smash kits for your vehicles. The adventure kit for all of your homesteading adventures and kayaking and off-road jeeping and all that stuff. It's all in stock. The stomp bag with hospital on your back. The MAC kit, which is a mass casualty kit. It's all in stock. And by in stock, I mean it's under our roof. Not we're hoping that it's going to show up so we can turn around and ship it to you. We have it in stock. It's under our roof. So check it out. RefugeMedical.com. Promo code is BearNation for that. Refuge Training. If you don't know how to use this stuff, you need to come to training. You can find all of our classes at RefugeTraining.com. We will be adding more classes later this year. But for right now, what you got is what you got. If there's a class within your home state, you need to go. If you're in South Texas, you need to go to the Waco class. I know Waco's Central Texas, but Texas is a big dang place. And we've already taught in San Antonio. We've already taught in Texas a dozen different times. We've already taught in Houston. We've already taught in Waco. We're going back to Waco because the facility at Tiger Valley is awesome. And so especially if you're like one of these Spartan race, tough mudder, one of those dudes or dudettes that like to get out there and get some, come to Responder 3. Show everybody just how tough you are. It's going to be a good time. Waco, Texas. RefugeTraining.com. Lastly, Grindstone Ministries. If you think it's an abomination for grown-ass men to rape children, we could be friends. We stand against that every day. We have more than a dozen children in our care currently. And our goal is to restore these people. Their mental, emotional, physical, educational, financial, and spiritual issues, to rebuild these people. And it's not a month-long program or a year-long program, because how do you tell a 4-year-old, hey buddy, yeah, your year's up. I hope you got all your poop in a group. Have a nice life. Good luck. No, we're in for the long haul. We put a biblical covering over widows and orphans in an effort to break generational curses so that we can restore these people. You hear, to the extent that you hear anything about anti-human trafficking, you hear a good bit about rescue. And rescue's great. We need rescues. We need to get good people out of bad situations. But what you don't hear about is the critical need, which is restoration. Because it takes a few weeks to work up a rescue and a few hours to perform it. It takes years to put these people back together again. Years. And we've got more than a dozen of them that we're currently working with. We've had to bring staff on. Therapists and advocates and attorneys and a director of operations and all of that. And I don't know if you've tried to feed a kid lately with a trip to Walmart, but it's pretty significant. And so our costs are way up, but so is our fruit. We don't even have our building, Caleb House, built yet, and the Father has seen fit to give us more than a dozen kiddos. Praise Yah. Lean into it. Every time I talk to him about, hey, what are we doing here? The response I get is, lean into it. Do what I told you to do. Yes, sir. But we can't do that without your help. If it's $1 or $5 or a $10 monthly recurring donation, there's a link in this video that'll take you to our online giving portal. And I'm not too proud to tell you we need help. So if you'd like to partner with us to help support these kids until the day they're old enough to spread their wings and fly again, please prayerfully consider supporting Grindstone Ministries. It's a link in the description, or you can go to grindstoneministries.com and check us out. And to every one of you who has helped us along this journey so far, bless you. Thank you. Can't do it without you. And I am humbled and amazed daily by who the Father sends and what the Father sends. And it just about breaks me to know how many thousands of y'all are praying over this ministry every day. We need it. We need it. And I'm not going to say times are tough, because we're blessed. But man, we've got a bunch of challenges in front of us right now. So thank you to every one of you who helps us do what we do. We could not do it without you. And this is why when people ask me dumb stuff like, hey, Bear, what kind of polymer frame striker fired 9mm pistol should I get? I don't care. We have a real job, and that real job is putting people back together again. I don't care. I don't care what kind of rifle you have. It's an AR or an AK. I don't care. It doesn't matter. In the big scheme of things, it doesn't matter. We have people whose lives were destroyed by the enemy, and we have to bring them back underneath the covering of the Most High so we can put them back together again. And I'll tell you what, don't thank me for doing that. I don't deserve your thanks, and I don't deserve your praise. The Father does. Don't thank me. Help me. Help me do this. And with that, y'all have an awesome day. Bless y'all. Shalom.